I had a similar discussion last night. I shared it with you, with someone who called me, I actually want us to be guided by empirical evidence. You referred to multiple. Multiple means many times over, isn't
More
it?
than one.
More
Yeah,
than one.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Now, AMTA and Agribusdev are directly linked to the Ministry of Agriculture, Water and Forestry. Now, common sense dictates that the Ministry of Agriculture, Water and Forestry should play a leading role in terms of the aspirations of this nation to guide these entities. And I see it's only, if you look at, for instance, AMTA, Meme, how many from ministry? Two, huh? Two. In my opinion, out of 7 or 8, 7, 2 representatives from the ministry to serve on the board. I think that is reasonable. If you look at the responsibilities that is entrusted to this sector, and you look at the composition of the board. So maybe there is a difference of opinion, but from where I sit, I think the arrangement perfectly meets the objectives of this nation as represented by the Ministry of Agriculture, Water and Forestry, that at least those 2 people should be on board so that they can guide the process in terms of what is it that the government want to achieve. That would be my short response, Mr. Hofiku. And I'm not going to go to the reasons why we are finding ourselves in the space that we find ourselves in terms of the economy of the nation. I'm sure everyone has got his own understanding, his own explanation, and so forth and so forth. Now, in terms, and I have to be extremely circumvent in what I say, as a member of the executive, as part and parcel of the collective, we rely on the resources that we are able to generate as a nation through the Ministry of Finance. And the Ministry of Finance is not doing whatever they do in isolation. There are thorough deliberations on what is available and how it is to be disbursed to the different sectors. Now, if we find ourselves in the situation that the cake is getting smaller, now smaller portions is to be distributed to all and sundry. Now, if it now come to present itself that what we are now discussing is the case in point of agriculture, that the allocations present themselves in such a fashion that we are probably not able to meet all our needs. Then we just have to find a way to exist within what is available, and that is really what is happening. But now coming to Agribusdev, and that's also my conviction. Agribusdev has the potential to be self-reliant. Agribusdev must, and then we are out of the starting blocks now because of these business models that we have asked them to present to the leadership government, which would eventually be looked at and endorsed. Now, there is that salient expectation that Agribusdev must be able to self-fund. There is great potential. But in order for Agribusdev to do that, maybe we needed to have a look at where they properly funded from the word go. How was the initial capital outlay to Agribusdev for them to be able to meet the expectations that we as the ministry and the nation is having of their operations? That's one. And number two, where Agribusdev properly equipped to deal with natural disasters like, what is that thing, armyworms, right? And many other plagues that comes your way if you are busy in the field of agronomy. So, but why should we dwell on what has happened in the past? The objective, as far as it concerns me, is for us to together look at solutions. How do we deal with what is confronting not just Agribusdev and AMTA, many entities throughout the public sector are facing challenges, maybe the others more than what is the case with Agribusdev. I don't want to cite individual examples, but if you look at the transport sector, look at Air Namibia, in a very worse space than ever. But we have to find solutions for it. And that is what we are trying to do, Mr. Hofiku. Really, that's really what all we are trying to do. It's very painful. Some of us come from the background of industrial relations, and then it's not a very comforting experience to have that workers are going for a month without receiving their salaries. It's not something that anyone can pride him or herself in, but that is the hard reality of the situation that we are confronted with. We are seized with internal arrangements in terms of looking at how can we mitigate the effect of that situation? How can we deal with it effectively? Some of us do our things quietly without talking too much. So it might create the impression that we are just sitting idle and that we are not kind of nonchalant, not to be concerned about the plight of the entities resorting under us, not by a long shot. Definitely not by a long shot. That's my submission.
Provisions. At the start of establishing these entities, it was made very clear that budgetary resources were not available for government to open up the composition of the board to people that are outside the public sector to reduce costs in terms of retention and sitting allowances. So the Constituting Act of both two entities says the boards would be constituted with members emanating from various OMAs. That is there, it can be provided. So, having gone through that exercise, and then compounded by the economic hardship that we are undergoing, that the country is undergoing through, I do not really think one can attribute the current situation in which AMTA, all Agribusdev find themselves solely to be caused by the board members. So that you can then go and say, this situation happened because of the incompetence or poor performance or the negligence of the boards. Yes, part of could be attributed, but it cannot in entirety say it was solely the responsibility of the board. The minister has already indicated that the initial capital outlay to put these boards or these two entities in a situation where they can operate their business efficiently and effectively was not as one would have desired it to be. Take for instance with Agribusdev. Agribusdev, when it started, it was supposed to be an overseer and supervisor of contractual arrangements between Ministry of Agriculture and the operators at the green schemes, as an overseer to monitor and see that those operators are doing a good job or not. But then later on, because the model that was being used then was a profit-sharing model between the operators and the government, when those companies or entities failed in that obligation, their obligation, they were removed. And Agribusdev was told, now take over the operation of these schemes. And they have to take over all the staff members that were already employed there. But you are telling an entity that's relying on government budget allocations without allocating that budget to it. Then that was the start of problems for the entities. So, truly speaking, yes, the entities are not operating as they should, but we cannot entirely and conclusively say this is a result of the maladministration of the boards that are appointed for such responsibilities. The second part of your question was, can you repeat that part? Outsourcing was indeed mooted or conceived, but it has not yet been implemented. The reason for that was we have 11 green schemes that are currently operational. Over and above that, we have one that is under development, that's Katimali Selo Farm in Zambezi region. And then we have three new ones that were supposed to be developed, which is Zone in Kavango West, and Tanjskope, and then the Nekatal irrigation scheme. And the idea was, if Agribusdev is not having the resource outlay to effectively make the current 11 green scheme entirely green and serving their purposes, why saddle them with additional responsibilities, even spreading further the scarce resources they have, when we know they will have problems in ensuring that they are run efficiently and effectively. So it was an idea to say, can we then move to the other models indicated in the green scheme policy? The green scheme policy had different modalities of implementation, and outsourcing is one of those. But outsourcing not on profit making, but on leasehold. And we're thinking, if for the new green schemes, we could ask or we could open it up to the private sector to come in who have money to develop them on build, operate, and transfer back. At least we would increase the area of under irrigation in the country. Unfortunately, because of the various concerns received by the ministry in that regard, that has been halted. And as the minister has already announced, we are now looking at new business operation models of both Agribusdev and AMTA, and that's what will guide us on the way forward on how we develop the new schemes that we had wanted to outsource under BOT principle.